So the question that I'm going to solve today is smaller sum. So this question states that we will be given an array of n integers, and for every index we have to find the sum of all the integers present in the array which have value less than ARR of I. So this means that for 3 for 3 we have to find all the sum of all the elements that are smaller than 3. So in this array, the only element that is smaller than 3 is 2. So for 3, the answer will be 2. For 4, the elements that are smaller than 4 are 3 and 2. So the answer will be 3 plus 2, that is 5. For 2, there is no element that is smaller than 2. So the answer will be 0. For 6, every element is smaller than 6. So the answer will be 3 plus 4 plus 2 plus 5 plus 4, which is 18. And for 5, every element is smaller except 6. So the answer will be 3 plus 4, 7 plus 2, 9 plus 4, 13. And for 4, the answer will be 5. So we have to return this vector. Okay. So the approach that came to my mind was like, if I keep a vector which will store the element along with its index in the original array, like I'll make a new vector of pair, and for 3, and it will store like 3 comma 0, 3 and its index, then 4 and its index, then 2 and its index. Similarly for every element. Now what will I do? I'll sort this vector. So now it will become like, first of all, 2 comma 2 will come, then will come 3 comma 0, then 4 comma 1. Similarly after this, 4 comma 5 will come, then 5 comma 4, and at last 6 comma 3 will come. I have done this so that for every element I have the track of all the elements that are smaller than it. In this way I can easily find the sum of all the elements that are smaller than it as well. Okay, and for doing this I'll store an integer called current sum, which will initially have value equal to 0. Okay, and and there will be a vector called answer, which I will return at the end. So this will have index for every element, and I'll take two pointers. First one is j, which will be initially at the 0th index, and one will be I, which is at minus 1th index. So now we will check that if I plus 1th element is smaller than the jth element, then we will increment I and add the value of the I plus 1th index in the current sum. I'll make it clear with the help of iterating on this array. Like currently our I is at minus 1th index and j is at 0th index. So we will check if I plus 1th index, that is 0th index, is it smaller than this element. So no, because at the 0th index there is 2, and at the jth index, which is equal to 0, again there is 2. So we will not increment I, and current sum will remain 0. So at the 2th index of the answer vector, we will put 0. Now we will increment j. Okay, now we will increment j, and we'll check whether I plus 1th index is smaller than the jth index or not. Yes, 2 is definitely smaller than 3. So we will increment I, and in the current sum we will add this. So current sum becomes 2. Now again we will check, is I plus 1th index smaller than the jth index? No, 3 is not smaller than 3. So we will not increment I, and at the 0th index we will keep the value of current sum, that is 2. Okay, So now we will increment j. J reaches here, and now we will check if I plus 1th index, that is 3, is it smaller than uh, the element at the jth index? Yes, 3 is smaller than 4. So we will add 3 here. This becomes 5, and I reaches here. Okay, I reaches here. So now again we will check whether the I plus 1th index, that is 4, is it smaller than 4? No, it is not smaller than 4. So we will not increment I here, and at the 1th index we store 5. Okay. Now when we increment j, j reaches here, and we check if I plus 1th index, that is 4, is it smaller than 4? No, it is not smaller than 4. So in this case, we will not increment I again, and at the 5th index, we put 5. So at the 5th index, we put 5. Okay, now again we increment j. J reaches here. So now we will check if I plus 1th index, that is 4, is it smaller than 5? Yes, it is smaller than 5. So we add 4 here. This becomes 9, and I reaches here. Now we check if I plus 1th index, that is 4, is it smaller than 5? Yes, it is smaller than 5. So we add again 4 here. This becomes 13. I reaches here. Now we check is if I plus 1th index smaller than the jth index. No, 5 is not smaller than 5. So at the 4th index, we put 13, and j reaches here. So for this, we will check if I plus 1th index smaller than the jth index. Yes, 5 is smaller than 6. So we add 5 here. This becomes 18. I reaches here. Again we check is I plus 1th index smaller than the jth index. No, 6 is not smaller than 6. So at the third index, we put 18. At the third index, we put 18, and increment j. When j reaches the end of the array, we break this loop, and now we got our final array, which has the sum of every element that is smaller than the element of uh, every element of this original array. Like we can see, for 3 the sum should be 2. So yeah, the sum is 2. For 4 the sum should be 5. The sum is 5. For 2 the sum should be 0. The sum is 0. For 6 the sum should be 18. Sum is 18. For 5 the sum should be 13, and for 4 the sum should be 5. So now I will show you the code for this. First of all, I have created a vector that will store the final answer which we have to return. Then I have created a vector of pair which will store every element of the array along with its index in the original array. And this operation is done in this for loop. After that, I will sort that vector like I did in the explanation part. And now my 2 pointers, I which is at -1 and j which is at the 0th index initially. And this variable current sum which will store the value of all the elements smaller than the current index, the sum of all the elements that are smaller than the current index. Now this while loop will run until j reaches the end of the array. And now this what will this while loop do? While the current I plus 1th element is smaller than the jth element, now so the value of the I plus 1th element will keep on adding to the current sum variable, and I will keep on incrementing. And when this condition fails, we will break out of this loop and store the value of current sum in the current index of the array, and then increment j. And when at last j reaches the end, this while loop also breaks, and we return our vector. So I'll run this code. So this works perfectly fine. I hope I made it clear. So thank you so much. And if you have any doubt, you can post them in the comment section. Thank you.